Recording in progress.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to our Bhakti Vaibhava study of the second canto. And today we're going to go on to chapter number 3. So before we go on to chapter number 3, would someone like to tell me something they remember from yesterday's class? Yes?
Yesterday we saw the connection between chapter 1 and 2. The chapter 1 talks about the universal form, and chapter 2 talks about the meditation of the Paramatma form. And this is progressively understanding the Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan aspects, so which we are going to learn further.
Okay.
And also we saw that how the yogis, they have to travel to various planets and undergo various purification. And after a long time, with lot of struggle, then finally if they continue the process, they may reach to the Supreme Lord. And we also saw that there are 3 categories of people who go to the higher abodes, heavenly planets, either through karma or jnana, but the devotees, they directly go to the Supreme Lord through the personal devotional service.
Yeah, we were talking particularly about at the time of death, because it's in relation to Maharaj Parikshit. Remember, Maharaj Parikshit is preparing for death. So Sukadeva Goswami was describing about yogis, how they leave the body and how they elevate themselves, how they can elevate themselves up to these higher planets. And particularly at Satyaloka, it was described 3 different kinds of perfection were there from Satyaloka. Okay, so we'll go ahead to chapter number 3. Are you okay there? Have you got the PowerPoint? Is it visible?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Oh, what's this? What's going on? Okay, chapter number 3, pure devotional service, a change in heart. So the first 9 chapters are going to describe about demigod worship. Actually, I'll just read the first verse. Sukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, as you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who's on the threshold of death, so I have answered you. Right? So Sukadeva Goswami is described about these yogis and about, particularly about at the time of death, that we do want to hear and chant. We want to be able to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. So now Sukadeva Goswami is going to go on and describe about first of all, he will mention about demigod worship. Why? Because somebody at the time of death, they may have material desires. So what about people who have material desires? Even at the time of death, people can have they have these material desires. And so, Sukadeva Goswami describes, first of all, he said, this is reading from the verse, text number 2, one who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma or Brihaspati, the learned priest. And then he goes on to describe much more materialistic, gross desires. One who desires powerful sex should worship the heavenly king, Indra. One who desires good progeny should worship the great progenitors called the Prajapatis. And so like this, he goes on and he gives us a whole list of different demigods, Durga Devi, and then the Vasus and Rudra. One who wants to worship, may want to have a lot of grains, you can worship Aditi. You want to go to the heavenly planets, worship the sons of the Aditi. You want a worldly kingdom, you can worship Vishvadeva. And you may want to be a king, you can worship Manu. And like this, there's so many different demigods are described. And you want to be beautiful, worship the Gandharvas. You want a good wife, worship the Apsaras. So many different desires are discussed. And then at the end of it, he said, oh wait, I have to go on. The next verse, text number 8, describes one should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotees for spiritual advancement in knowledge and for protection of heredity and advancement of a dynasty, worship the various demigods. All right, so it was mentioned worship Lord Vishnu, but then text number 9 mentions that one who at the end of text number 9, one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's mentioned there at the end of the verse, Akama Purusham Param. Akama Purusham Param. If you have no material desires, then you can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all of these different demigod worshippers, they're all described as less intelligent. From the Bhagavad Gita, we know in Lord Krishna's opinion, all of these people who are worshipping demigods to get material things, they're all less intelligent, and they're worshipping in the wrong way. And whatever benedictions they get from these demigods can only be given by the grace of Krishna. So that is the statement given there in text number 9. And then text number 10, which is the significant verse, describing worshipping Krishna, the ultimate path. Text number 10, the famous verse, which is often quoted, which I think you will all know, right? Akama sarvakamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Right? If one has a person who has broader intelligence, right? Udaradi. Akama sarvakamava moksha kama udaradi. Udaradi meaning broader intelligence. Other people, these demigod worshippers, they're not udaradi. They don't have very broad intelligence. They have alpamedasaha. Antavat tu palam tesham tadbhavati alpamedashaham. Their intelligence is alpa, very meager. In one Prabhupada tape I heard, Prabhupada was describing, he said their brain is like stool because they simply desire material things. So alpamedasaha. They don't have broader intelligence. They're foolish. They're worshipping for things which are limited and temporary. So demigod worship is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. And here Sukadeva Goswami is describing, okay, you have material desires, but then he mentions at the end of all that list of demigods, he says, a person who is intelligent, who has a broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, or without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. So this is the conclusive statement here of Sukadeva Goswami, that you don't need to worship all these other demigods. You simply worship the Supreme Lord. It doesn't matter you have material desires or whatever desire you want liberation, okay, then still you worship the Supreme Lord. And you have no desires, then you still have to worship the Lord. It's also required. So this is the position. We have to understand how to properly fulfill our desires. Okay, so text number 10, very important. Tivrina Bhakti. You'll remember also, it's in Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes Sumedasaha, right? We have Alpamedasaha in the Bhagavad Gita and Sumedasaha. Where do you find that word, Sumedasaha? You know the verse?
Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna.
Yes, right, good. Yes, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Chaitanya is predicted. So it's described how Lord Chaitanya and the devotees who are taking part in the Sankirtan movement, then they have the purified intelligence, Sumedasaha. So Udaradi is mentioned in this 9th verse, and this broader intelligence. We understand, worship the Supreme Lord. Text number 10, we covered 10, that was 10. Text number 11 then says, all the different kinds of worshippers of multi-demigods can attain the highest perfectional benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by the association of the pure devotee of the Lord. So spontaneous attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We would all like to have that. Different kinds of worshippers can get the ultimate benediction, the highest benediction, which is to be fixed on the personality of God. And we get that by association of the pure devotees of the Lord. So we do need association. Association is vital for us. And we want to get the best possible association of the pure devotees. And then, after describing like this, then text number 12 goes on. Transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment, and being transcendental, it is approved by authorities. Who could fail to be attracted? So, transcendental knowledge is being stressed here. And in order to actually appreciate transcendental knowledge, we have to get free from the material energy. So Sukadeva Goswami glorifies transcendental knowledge, explaining how it's self-satisfying, free from material attachment, transcendental, approved. So this is the second section here of the chapter. And after describing that, then we will hear Shonaka Rishi and his eagerness to hear Krishna Katha. So Shonaka Rishi, remember, he's the leader of the sages in Naimisharanya, and he's a spokesman on behalf of all the sages. How many thousands of sages are there in Naimisharanya? Anyone remember?
Is it 60,000?
Well, I can't remember exactly myself. I don't think it was 60,000, but anyway, there were many people. There was thousands. Yeah, it was thousands. So Shonaka Rishi, he's very eager to hear Krishna Katha. And when Shonaka Rishi speaks, it's really powerful. You can really feel, wow, you know, this guy is really powerful. He really cuts through the ice. So he begins with some inquiry. 13 to 16 is an inquiry. And then at the end also, he has an inquiry. Text 25. But after his inquiry, then 17 to 20, you have Shonaka Rishi's criticisms. He criticizes those who don't hear Krishna Katha. And then he goes on in text 20 to 24 to condemn the limbs and other bodily parts of those who do not serve Krishna. So we're going to look at these things today. This is the third chapter. This is the summary of the third chapter. So first of all, connection with chapter 2. Sukadeva Goswami concluded his answer to Parikshit Maharaj regarding the duty of a man about to die. A thoughtful person should hear Krishna Katha. A thoughtful person, right? Munitsina is thoughtful. You should be thoughtful. The people who don't think, then they won't be interested to hear Krishna Katha. But people who think, who have questions, they want to know what's going to happen, what's going to happen at the time of death, where should I go, what should I do? Thoughtful people who have questions, who inquire, these are the people, they want to hear Krishna Katha. But what about someone who has material desires? Whom should that person worship to fulfill these desires, those desires? As a prelude to his answer, Sri Sukadeva Goswami starts listing the personalities one may worship in order to fulfill one's material desires. And we do see a lot of worship like that, right? Many people, they worship Lakshmi. They want wealth, right? Somebody else, someone's worshipping Saraswati. They want to pass their exam. Or maybe they're in acting or dancing. They worship Saraswati, the goddess Saraswati, the goddess of learning. And someone else may worship the Ashwini Kumars. They want to have a long life, we heard today. Or you may worship The sun god. Maybe you have health problem. You can worship the sun. People often worship Lord Ganesh. Ganesh worship is popular. Why? They have obstacles, problems in life, to overcome the problems. So, we see in the Brahma Samhita how different demigods are discussed. They're all mentioned one after another in the Brahma Samhita. You have, for example, Lord Ganesh. He's described that he gets his power to destroy obstacles because he holds the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu on his two tumuli. So as devotees, we don't worship Lord Ganesh to destroy obstacles. If we have some problem, serious danger or something, we can worship Lord Nrsingadev. But a devotee who's surrendered to Krishna, he knows that only Krishna can protect him. He simply takes shelter of Lord Krishna. And we want wealth. Somebody may want wealth. Well, Lakshmi is the consort of Lord Narayan. Lakshmi is chanchal. She's restless. She doesn't stay in one place. Why should you worship Lakshmi? She's going to leave you. But if you worship Lord Narayan, or who's none different from Lord Krishna, then Lakshmi, she always stays there. Although she's chanchal, she's very chaste to Lord Narayan. And she resides permanently on the chest of the Lord. So in Brahma Samhita you see Ganesh is mentioned, Agni is mentioned, then the sun god is mentioned, and then Brahma is mentioned, and Shiva is mentioned. They're all mentioned there in the Brahma Samhita. But the conclusion is, Lord Brahma, who is speaking the Brahma Samhita, his conclusion is, Govindam Adipursham Tamaham Bhajami. It is Govinda who's the Supreme Lord. And all of these different demigods, whatever benedictions they can give, it's simply by the grace of the Supreme Lord, Govinda. So, whatever Bhagavad Gita also says, whatever a man may offer to other gods is actually meant for me alone, but it's offered without true understanding. Okay, going ahead, here we see fulfilling all desires. Sukadeva Goswami, as you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man, so, the intelligent man who's on the threshold of death, so I have answered you. So it's mentioned there, Manushyeshu Manishinam. Manishinam, meaning thoughtful. So the thoughtful person, they will inquire about these things. Then text number 10, this famous verse, Akama, Sarvakamu, Moksha. Oh, my font is wrong here. I don't know why. I have to check that. Sorry, I didn't check the fonts on this one. Anyway, Akama Sarvakamu va Moksha Kama Udaridi Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param. Akama, no material desires. Sarvakama, all material desires. Moksha kama is also a desire. It's not desirelessness, right? Moksha kama, you have a desire. Udharati, broader intelligence. And Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. Tivrena means very forceful worship of the Lord. Tivrena. Powerful worship, very focused on Bhakti Yogena. Then they should worship the Supreme Lord. This is by those who are intelligent. The wise choice we've put there. Text number 11. text number 11, we describe how to develop broader intelligence. Right? How to develop? You have to worship the Supreme Lord. We don't worship the demigods. You won't become intelligent. We'll become less intelligent. Worship the Supreme Lord. And then also get the mercy of the devotee. We need to get that mercy of the devotee. That's very important for us. Text number 12 establishes the position of bhakti beyond liberation. Liberation is not important for a devotee. A devotee is not concerned with liberation because we know devotional service begins from the liberated platform. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. The verse there in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, the one who's situated on the Brahma Bhuta platform, then he will engage in devotional service. So Brahma Bhuta is the platform of liberation. So it's not very significant. Devotee is not much concerned with liberation. Prabhupada quotes Bilvamangal Thakur, how in his Krishna Karanamrita he described that when he's engaged in the service of Krishna, then he sees liberation standing with arms folded, waiting to serve him. So that is the position of devotional service, that liberation is there any time for a devotee. And Dhruva Maharaj also said, Swamin kritartosmi varam naneyachi. He said, now I am fully satisfied because he had devotional service. So it's bhakti which we really want. Text number 12, transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Such knowledge, self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment and is being transcendental, it is approved by authorities. Who could fail to be attracted? Well, of course, we know many people do fail to be attracted. Many materialistic people are there. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Shonaka Rishi's eagerness for Krishna Katha. Here we can see artist's impression. Shonaka Rishi in the Naimisharanya forest, and all the sages eager to hear. All right, here's a quote from Srila Prabhupada. Would someone like to read?
Hare Krishna. Similarly, Krishna has placed Goloka Vrindavan that is also spread everywhere. How that Goloka Vrindavan becomes spread? As soon as there is devotee, yes, tatra tishtham, narada yatra gayanti mad bhaktah. Krishna says, naham tisthami vaikunthe nacha yoginam hridayeshu. I do not stay in Vaikuntha Loka or within the heart of the yogis. Tatra tisthami narada yatra gayanti mad bhaktah. I stay there where my devotees are chanting about me, about my glories. This is the process. Immediately, Goloka eva nivasatya akhilatma bhutah. Brahma Samhita 5.37. That is Krishna's power, omnipotency. Bombay, September 1973.
All right. So, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out, Krishna's home is Goloka Vrindavan. But he's everywhere. And especially where the devotee is chanting his holy name, then that is the very special place that attracts Krishna, where there's the pure chanting of the holy name. Then Krishna likes to come there. All right, so Sukadev, let me get this on my book here. 13, this, okay, Sonika Uvacha. Text number 13 begins, Shonika said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? So this is the first inquiry from Shonaka Rishi. What he wants to know, what did Maharaj Parikshit inquire after hearing from Shukadeva Goswami? So Prabhupada discusses about the qualities of a devotee, how devotees will have all good qualities. And one of them is poetic. And we see, of course, wonderful poetry being written. Krishna does Kaviraj, and Vrindavan does Thakur, Chaitanya Bhagavat. They want wonderful poetry describing the pastimes of the Lord. Jayadeva Goswami also, Lord Chaitanya would relish hearing the poetry of Jayadeva Goswami. And Srila Prabhupada also wrote his arrival prayers and poetry about Krishna. When Prabhupada was on the boat coming to New York, he wrote his prayer to Lord Krishna in a poetic manner. So poetry is one of the qualifications of a devotee. So Shonaka Rishi is speaking, and he's in the Naimisharanya forest, so he's addressing Sutta Goswami. So text number 14, we read, O learned Sutta Goswami, please continue to explain such topics to us, because we are eager to hear. Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of the Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes also, Madchita Madgata Prana Bodhayantas Parasparam Katayantas Chamam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. That the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered unto me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss by enlightening one another and conversing about me. So Prabhupada also talks here about how devotees like to discuss Ramayana and Mahabharata. These books are especially meant for the less intelligent class of people, the Striya, Sudra, and Dvijabandhu. And of course, from the Mahabharata, we have the Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is the primary knowledge. And Prabhupada talks, he said some people say that Bhagavad Gita shouldn't be discussed by grihastas. That is not. But Prabhupada said that's stupid. He said, Arjuna is a grihasta. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. If it wasn't for grihastas, why would Krishna speak to Arjuna? So this nonsense argument is being dismissed by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, then coming up to text number 15, then we get this point here, which is brought up here in Prabhupada's quote. I'll first read text 15 to you, and it's talking, Sonaka Rishi speaking, remember, and he's addressing Sutta Goswami. He says, Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of the Pandavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Krishna by imitating the worship of the family deity. So in the purport there, Srila Prabhupada talks how that this is a sign of a Maha-Bhagavat. That from his very childhood, he was playing with the deity and worshipping the deity and imitating deity worship, although he was a small child. And Prabhupada says this is Maha-Bhagavat. So here, in this quote, which we have on the slide, he's talking about the Maha-Bhagavats. Someone, you can read this?
Hare Krishna. Such Mahabhagavatas are called Nitya Siddhas, or souls liberated from birth. But there are also others who may not be liberated from birth, but who develop a tendency for devotional service by association, and they are called Sadhana Siddhas. There is no difference between the two in the ultimate issue. And so the conclusion is that everyone can become a Sadhana Siddha, a devotee of the Lord, simply by the association with the pure devotees.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
So again, the association with the pure devotee is talked about. Sadhana Siddhas. We see the comparison how somebody is a Mahabhagavat, like Maharaj Parikshit is described from his birth, his very childhood. He was a great devotee of the Lord, playing with dolls, worshipping Krishna. So, how does that compare to Sukadeva Goswami? If we compare Maharaj Parikshit with Sukadeva Goswami, is Sukadeva Goswami also a Mahabhagavat?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Why?
Because Sukadeva Goswami was Krishna conscious from the childhood, means not from the childhood, even at the womb of his mother, and that's why he was not willing to come as a child in this material world. And then we see in the previous canto that how after his birth he immediately went to the forest, and then he was leading a life like a liberated person, and then later on he got attracted by Srimad Bhagavatam and Lord's different pastimes and beauty, and then came back to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from his father Vyasadeva. So he is completely a liberated person even from the womb of his mother. So he is a Nitya Siddha and a Bhagavata.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there are different opinions about Sukadeva Goswami. If he actually came back, or some say he actually heard the Srimad Bhagavatam while he was in the womb. But we also know he was attracted to hear the glories of the Lord, that liberated persons are also attracted to the glories of the Lord. That is, of course, there from the Atmarama sloka, that even ones on the platform of liberation, they'll want to glorify Krishna. So, Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha. Let's read Prabhupada's quote. Oh, did we read it already? Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
Right, okay, we read it already. So Nitya Siddha and Sadhana, what's the difference? Is there a difference? Prabhupada said there is no difference between the two in the ultimate issue. Of course, there is a difference in the beginning, because the sadhana siddha is one who becomes perfect, and nitya siddha is one who is already perfect. By birth, he's already perfect. Sometimes we give the example, just like somebody is born a millionaire. Someone's born, in a very, very rich family, and he's a millionaire. He's born in this very rich family. The father's a billionaire, so, and somebody else becomes a millionaire. He makes money. Maybe he's born in a poor family, but he works hard. He's very intelligent, very smart, and he makes a lot of money and becomes a millionaire. So they're both millionaires. One became a millionaire, and one was a millionaire by birth. We say born with a silver spoon in his mouth, so he has everything from birth. So someone else is sadhana siddha. They achieved it by sadhana. They got there by their sadhana, by their spiritual practice. So ultimately, there's no difference. Prabhupada is bringing up this point in the purport. He says, he talks about in the previous life, one may take birth due to his previous life in yoga practice. He's given a chance. He takes birth in the home of a brahmana, or a rich man, or Kshatriya kings. But Maharaj Parikshit was more than that, because he had been a great devotee of the Lord since his previous birth. So since his previous birth, he had already been a great devotee. But he's taking his birth again. This time he's born in the royal family, in the family of the Pandavas. So does he get an actual chance to meet Krishna? Of course, Krishna had already, was Krishna finished the pastime? No. Well, Krishna protected Parikshit when he was in the womb. Did he actually see Lord Krishna? We don't read about Parikshit actually meeting with Krishna, but we do know that the Lord protected him when he was in the womb of Uttara. But after then he came out from the womb. Lord Krishna had gone to Dwarka. The Lord Krishna goes to Dwarka and he finishes his pastimes, disappears. So I don't know that Maharaj Parikshit ever had the opportunity to personally meet with Lord Krishna. But certainly he knew about Lord Krishna. He knew about the connection between Lord Krishna and his own family. So because the Pandavas were all devotees, and certainly there would be deities in the family, and so he would see the worship of the deities and he would imitate. Just like Prabhupada told us how he would see his father worship the deity. As his father would come home every night, he would do his puja, he would do the puja of Radha Krishna and offer obeisances, and Prabhupada would see his father. So when Prabhupada was a child also, he would play also with deities, and he would also go to temple, and he did, of course, his Rath Yatra like that. So from Prabhupada's life we see, the birth in the Vaishnava family is very special. What does the Bhagavad Gita say? Who's born into a family of great transcendentalists? Sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, Maharaj. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes? Yes? Can you explain, please?
Yeah, either you're born in a family of the aristocrat family or in a family of the great Vaishnava, where he can continue his spiritual practice.
So what particular kind of yogi is born in a family of great Vaishnavas?
those who could not perfect their devotional service, they'll be born next birth.
Well, there are two kinds of unsuccessful yogis. Right? There are two kinds of unsuccessful yogis described in the 6th chapter. What's the difference?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, one category who has done the yoga practice for a short time and one who has done for a long time.
Yes. So
Those
one
who
who's...
those who are done for the long time, they will take birth in the pious family where they can take up to devotional service easily. Those who are done for a short time, they may be elevated to heavenly planets or a rich family.
Right. Yeah, they go to the higher planets first, and they satisfy their desires for sense gratification. Then they come back to earth and they take birth in the rich family. And those who practice yoga for a longer time but still not quite successful, they take birth in the family of great transcendentalists. And Prabhupada describes how he and his Guru Maharaj also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they both had that opportunity to be born into families of devotees, great devotees. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, of course, was the seminal son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you read about his life, he wasn't born in so much of a very great devotee family. They were pious, but not so very great, you know. Not that there were so much great devotees. But he became a great devotee, and then his son, particularly Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had several sons, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was the most prominent of them. And Srila Prabhupada had sons also, but Prabhupada's sons, they didn't really become active in Krishna consciousness. The youngest one, he's all right, you know, of course, his name is Vrindavan Das, Vrindavan Day, and he will sometimes associate with devotees. Actually, he had a daughter, Vrindavan Day, who was Prabhupada's son. He had a daughter who became a devotee, and she was the initiated disciple of Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, and she was living here in Mayapur, and she was married. She was a married woman with children, but when there was a flood, somehow she drowned in the flooding of Mayapur quite a few years ago. I remember that. Anyway, Vrindavan, and so birth in a family is a great advantage if you have that opportunity. So Maharaj Parikshit, he had that advantage. And Prabhupada writes here that in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, that Maharaj Parikshit was more than that. He was more than these yogis, because he had been a great devotee since his previous birth. It wasn't like he was some fallen yogi, he fell down to sense gratification or anything. No, he was a great devotee already, but he's come just to take part in the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So it's like that. Sometimes people who are very great in devotion, they will come, and before they go back to Godhead, they will come and take part in Lord Krishna's pastimes, and then go back to Godhead. Jiva Goswami actually says like that. It said that before you go, you don't immediately go back to Godhead, but you go to wherever Lord Krishna's pastimes are taking place, and you take part in those pastimes, and then you go back to Godhead. You get further training. So here we see Maharaj Parikshit. This is like his final training before he goes back to Godhead. Okay, so Maharaj Parikshit is described, and then Prabhupada talks about his own family and how he was encouraged to worship and everything. Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha, therefore comparing them, simply, Prabhupada said, in the ultimate issue, no difference. We don't make, who is a Nitya Siddha and who is a Sadhana Siddha. Certainly, it's a great fortune, somebody born in a pious devotee family. And Prabhupada was very anxious about the children who take birth in the family of devotees. He said these are very, very special children. When they come in the when a devotee couple have a child, we can consider that this child who's taking birth, that they must have been they must have been already in the spiritual path in order to take birth in the family of devotees. So Prabhupada gave a lot of attention, and he was always anxious for the children and to see that they were nourished in their spiritual life. Okay, so text 15 describes this, sadhana siddha. Oh, a bit more. Someone please read.
Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha. So Nitya Siddha means he does not get covered by the influence of material nature about his natural devotional tendency to serve Krishna. He never becomes covered. This is difference. Krishna gives him chance to get birth in such a family. So just like Maharaj Parikshit, that he never gets the chance of forgetting Krishna. So one who does not get the chance of forgetting Krishna is called Nitya Siddha. This is the difference. And Sadhana Siddha means one has forgotten Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.15, LA 72.
Alright, so Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us here the difference between the Sadhana Siddha and the Nitya Siddha. That the Nitya Siddha, he never forgot Krishna. But Sadhana Siddha, we forgot, but somehow we get remembrance, we come back. So, but the Nitya Siddha, he never becomes covered. Never forgets Krishna. So we want to try to get that. Of course, there's one other type of perfection which is called Kripa Siddha, by mercy. Kripa Siddha. A devotee asked Prabhupada, what is Kripa Siddha? And Prabhupada said, he said, just like somebody comes up to you and gives you $1 million. He said, does it happen? He said, somebody you never saw before, you didn't know them, they just walk up to you and they give you $1 million. Did it ever happen to you? The devotee, of course, said, no problem, never happened to me. And Prabhupada said, yeah, it's very rare. So like that, Kripa Siddha, it's very rare. They give you something very special, very valuable, but it's very rare. So Kripa Siddha, we cannot expect to get Kripa Siddha. We should endeavor for Sadhana Siddha. To become perfect, we should work for Sadhana Siddha. And at the same time, desire also mercy, if we can get the mercy. Just like honorary degree. Kripa Siddha is like honorary degree. Did you get honorary degree? Did anybody, any of our students here, were you given an honorary degree? No, I don't think so. Prabhupada gave the example, Rabindranath Tagore. He was invited by Oxford. Go to Oxford, they'll give you honorary degree. Now Rabindranath Tagore, he never studied at Oxford, but they asked him, come, we want to give you a degree. They appreciated so much his writing, his poetry and so on, so they brought him there and gave him an honorary degree. And sometimes people do get honorary degrees. If you give a college or a university, if you give them a lot of money, you give them a big donation, they'll give you an honorary degree. That's the system today. You want to get honorary degree, give them enough money, they'll give you honorary degree. Okay. So our hope, we have to endeavor for sadhana, do sadhana, and in this way we can also come to the perfect stage. Okay, then we want to compare also the life of, or the position of Maharaj Parikshit with Sukadeva Goswami. What do they have in common? Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. What do they have in common?
Both are great devotees of Krishna, both glorified.
Okay, they're both devotees of Krishna. When did they both become devotees?
Parikshit Maharaj, he was a devotee right from the womb of his mother. And Shukadeva Goswami, once he came out of the womb, earlier he was an impersonalist, and then after he came out, then when he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, then he became a personal, devotee of the Lord, in that sense. Both were devotees, but there's a slight transition in case of Shukadeva Goswami.
Both from their childhood, the devotees. Okay. Yes? Anything else in common? Okay.
Eagerness.
Yes? What?
Eagerness to hear. That was the quality of Parikshit, and the eagerness to speak. That was the commonality of Parikshit Maharaj.
Okay, good. Yes.
Shukadeva Goswami. The
So,
eagerness component, both of them. The enthusiasm and eagerness.
All right. So one's a speaker and one's a hearer. Sukadeva Goswami is the master and Maharaj Parikshit is the disciple. Yes? Some more differences? What else is different between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit? What's the difference between the two?
Maharaj Parikshit was an emperor. He owned everything in the world practically, whereas Shukadeva Goswami was a renunciant. He had nothing but himself except Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right. Sukadeva Goswami, how did he come dressed?
He was not dressed.
Yes. His body was not covered. He came naked. He was completely avadut. Right? And Maharaj Parikshit, of course, he's the emperor coming from the royal order. So big difference. But by the grace of Krishna, they met at the appropriate time, just prior to the end of Maharaj Parikshit's life. Anything else? Any other point? Yes?
Maharaj Parikshit was a namaskar householder.
Yes, Maharaj Parikshit was a householder. And Sukadev?
He was not.
He was a brahmachari, right. And Maharaj Parikshit, he'd heard about Krishna's pastimes at Vrindavan. Where did he hear about them from?
When Parikshit Maharaj went around in his empire also, then before he meets Kali, or even during that time, he hears about the wonderful dealings in the past times between how the Lord was protecting his grandparents throughout, and the affectionate dealings of the Lord. So in that way, he knew about the Lord throughout.
Yes, he would hear about the Lord's pastimes from the elders in the family, from the elder people in the palace and so on, because they all knew. But we could also say he was naturally inclined to Lord Krishna from his childhood. It may have been that he was just imitating what he was seeing the elders doing. But the fact that he was doing these things as a child and that he continued this mood throughout his life indicates that he was a Mahabhagavat. And therefore at the time of death, he was able to sit down and hear and fast and just simply hear from Sukadeva Goswami. So Prabhupada said everybody can become a sadhana siddha just by association, if we associate with the pure devotees. And who's the example? Who became a pure devotee?
Narada Muni.
Yes.
Narada Muni.
Right, Narada Muni is given that he is the unique in the history of devotional service, that by association. And Sukadeva Goswami, he's the son of Vyasadeva. He's full in transcendental knowledge. He's also a great devotee of Krishna. So when the two meet, certainly there will be discussion of Lord Krishna. Okay, we'll go ahead. And then Prabhupada talks about his own life. We can read here, please. Someone read.
Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha, a child naturally wants to play, so he can play with Krishna deity. We had the opportunity of doing that. My father was worshipping Krishna deity, so I wanted to imitate him, and he gave me small deity. That deity is still worshipped, my sister and myself. Whatever we were eating, we were offering exactly the same archana. This is the facility of taking birth in a Vaishnava family. Children, simply by playing with Krishna, they become Krishna conscious. Some way or other, if somebody comes in contact with Krishna, then his life becomes successful. So, this is Krishna Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, can be practiced even by a child without interfering with his natural propensities. Hare Krishna.
Go ahead.
And father used to encourage this Rath Yatra and Radha Krishna temple, which we are propagating. It was from the very beginning of our life initiated by our parents. So anyone can initiate his child to this Krishna consciousness, understanding from the very beginning. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.15, Los Angeles 72.
Yes, and there's one purport. Prabhupada writes that children from the age of 12, they can be initiated. And Prabhupada did initiate some children. When Prabhupada was here in Mayapur in Prabhupada's time, there's a few people, they were initiated when they were young children by Prabhupada. So Prabhupada gave them the chance. And they're still active in Krishna consciousness. So it's very great fortune that they can come to Krishna consciousness in childhood. I remember when I joined, I was 21 and I thought, oh, I came so late. If only I had joined it earlier. Later on, after I became devotee, people would ask me, what age were you when we became a devotee? And I said 21. They said, oh, so early. I thought I was so late. I thought it was late. It's certainly good. Prahlad Maharaj says, Kumar acharet pragno dharmam bhagavatamiha. Kumar, from the age of 5, we should begin to study Krishna consciousness. So that childhood, very important, very significant. So both Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, Prabhupada says, they're both on the same level. Although it appears that Maharaj Parikshit was a great king, accustomed to royal facilities, whereas Sukadeva Goswami was a typical renouncer of the world, so much so he did not even put a cloth on his body. Superficially, Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami might seem to be opposites, but basically they were both unalloyed, pure devotees of the Lord. That's from text number 16 of the chapter purport. So certainly when they come together, there will be discussions of Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga. So Sukadeva, then Prabhupada says, Jiva Goswami says that both Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit were of the same category, settled long before, although one was playing the part of the master and the other the disciple. But since Lord Krishna is the center of the topics, the words Vasudeva Parayana, or devotee of Vasudeva, suggests devotee of Lord Krishna, the common aim. Although there were many others who assembled at the place where Maharaj Parikshit was fasting, the natural conclusion is that there was no topic other than glorification of Krishna, because the principal speaker was Sukadeva Goswami and the chief audience was Maharaj Parikshit. So Srimad Bhagavatam, as it was spoken and heard by two principal devotees of the Lord, is only for the glorification of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So they're both Nitya Siddha devotees. They came together by the arrangement of Krishna, and thus we have the speaking of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so Sukadeva Goswami introduces the topic and the meeting of Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami, and now he's going into, after inquiring a little, he's offering this wonderful verse here, describing the powers of hearing topics of Krishna. It's very important, right? This is also one of your, I think, must be memorization verse, right? Ayur harati vaipumsam ujam astam chayanasau tashyarte yachano nita utama shloka vartaya. So ayur, the duration of life, hariti, decreased. The duration of life is decreased by all people. When? Ujam astam, the rising and setting of the asau, the sun. As the sun rises and sets, reduces the duration of life of all people. In the morning we may sit and we're anxious, looking, when is the sun going to come up? Oh, it's cold. When will the sun come up? But we should understand, as the sun rises, this is reducing the duration of our life. Except, of course, tashyate yachano nita utama shloka vartaya, except for those who are engaged in hearing the topics of the Supreme Lord. So this is very nice. The topics of the Lord, Uttama Sloka Vartaya. If we are able to spend our time in that mood, just simply hearing about Krishna, then we don't have to worry about the duration of life. We don't have to worry about dying untimely or any of these things. So this is a very powerful verse to give, describing the importance of hearing about Krishna. How it can keep us away from the miseries of material existence. So we want to always be engaged in this business of discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. We were discussing, I think yesterday, someone asked me, how do you deal with someone if somebody is in the position, they have a health problem, or somebody became a devotee, they lost their job after becoming a devotee. And so when they lost their job, they thought, oh, Krishna's taken away my job, or Krishna has done this to me, or Krishna has done that to me. When a devotee appreciates these things, they become an impetus for our devotional service. Old age and disease, impending death, it's an impetus for our devotional service. If you look at the life of Srila Prabhupada, you can see in Prabhupada's life, when Prabhupada began the Krishna consciousness movement, and then at the end of the Krishna consciousness movement, it was like a marathon race. It was like a marathon. You know, when you run a marathon race, you know, at the end, you want to put in the final spurt. At the end, you want to really give everything you've got. So Prabhupada was like that. It was like the final burst in the last year of his life, the last few years. They were like the end of the marathon. It was a great effort to do as much as he could, to give everything, to get this Krishna consciousness movement set up so that it would continue. But you know, the fear of death and the fear of disease and all these things, they're not a problem for the devotee. They're an impetus. We should understand that when the devotee has this problem, it's not karma. It's the arrangement of Krishna. He sees everything as the arrangement of Krishna. And Krishna gives him these things to help to prepare him for going back to Godhead, for the eternal life. It's a preparation for the eternal life. So this is a very important verse here. Sukadeva Goswami describing the power of hearing topics of Krishna. We want to always be hearing about Krishna. And that way, then we're safe. We had one devotee here in Mayapur actually. He gave class. He gave class in the morning. And then half an hour later, he left the body. Amazing. He gave class in the morning, and half an hour later, he had to go to the hospital, and he had a heart problem, and he left the body just after giving class in the morning. So, very special. Okay, so then, some quotes here from Prabhupada. Someone like to read?
The sun is rising early in the morning. As it is rising, gradually it is taking your life. That's all. That is the business. But if you want to defeat the sun is very powerful. It is very difficult to fight. But you can fight with the sun. How? Simply by reading Krishna Katha, the words of Krishna. Uttama Shloka Vartaya. Vartaya Uttama Shloka Krishna. So this is the simple process. You don't waste your time by talking nonsense.
Go ahead, Mataji.
So if we pass our time simply by reading and talking about Krishna, then the sun will not be able to take away our life. This is the secret. If you want to become immortal, then you always be engaged in Krishna Katha. Always 24 hours, always thinking of Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. June 12, 1972, Rosity.
Thank you. Okay, so very nice verse there by Srila Prabhupada. No. Okay, we have to go on to the... Let's go through the verses. We're text number 18, right? Sukadeva Goswami, and Shonaka's speaking because we want to live. Okay, you want to live a long time? Because he was talking, that the sun is rising and setting, decreasing our duration of life. So Sukadeva Goswami says in text 18, well, the trees also live. Do the trees not live? You want to live a long life? You want to live like a tree? Prabhupada said some trees there in Vrindavan, they say it's from Lord Krishna's time. They say it's been there 5,000 years. And in Botanical Garden, there's a huge banyan tree. It's been there hundreds of years. And so, you want to live like a tree? That's not very good. Lord Chaitanya was here only how many years? And then, Lord Chaitanya, how many years did he pass in this world?
48 years.
Yeah, and how many, what about Shankaracharya? How long was he
32.
here? Yeah,
32.
right. Yeah, but their contribution is so great. They didn't stay very long in the world, but they did great contribution. So the trees, they live a long time, but what do they contribute? Do you want a long life like the trees? And you may say, oh, well, the trees, they don't breathe. So then Shonaka says, oh, well, the bellows or the blacksmith, they breathe. Just because you breathe, it's nothing special about that. The blacksmith bellows are also breathing air. What's the good of that? You may say, well, the bellows, they don't eat. So Shonaka said, well, the beasts eat, they eat and they also discharge semen. So just eating and mating, the animals do that better than you humans. They do it more. They eat more and they can discharge more semen and have more children than humans. So Shonaka Rishi, like this, he's really attacking the materialistic conception of life. That's text number 18, right? And then he goes on in 19. Let's read text 19. Oh, okay. Text 19 is this one, this famous verse, right? The animalistic civilization. Here we have, right? Hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. Sometimes they translate it as donkeys, but Prabhupada it's usually asses. The hog, the dog, the camel, and the ass. And so it's a very well-known verse. Swavid varahostra karai samstusta purusha pashu. Right? The translation. Those men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, they praise men who never listen to the transcendental topics of Lord Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Sometimes Prabhupada would translate it, he would say, men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise other men of a similar nature. They praise bigger dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, because they never listen to the pastimes of Lord Krishna, the deliverer from evil. There's a very nice pastime where Prabhupada spoke about this verse actually. Prabhupada was invited, I think it was either in Mumbai or Calcutta, but Prabhupada was invited to one of those Lions clubs, or maybe Rotarian something, that kind of thing. All business people, wealthy people, and Prabhupada was giving lecture to them, and Prabhupada spoke on this materialistic civilization, and he analyzed the materialistic civilization to them. And he said, just like in material society, people are like dogs. The dog is described, he can get angry for no reason at all. And Prabhupada describes the dog, the dog mentality. He said, just like the student, when he graduates from university, you go and beg on the door, you knock on the door of the office, my dear sir, please give me a job. I will be a good dog for you. The doggish mentality. You have to go and beg a job from someone. Every dog needs a master. So the dog, like that, you go and beg people. So this way Prabhupada compared human life to the dog. And the hog, he eats without any kinds of discrimination. So people who will eat anything and everything, they're just like hogs. And the camels, they're the ones who chew the thorns. They're also a beast of burden, and they chew thorns. And they taste their own blood and think they're enjoying. So the same way people perform sinful activities and they think they're enjoying the results of their sinful acts, but actually they're chewing thorns. They will simply suffer. And then the ass is famous because he always gets kicked by the mate. When he tries to mate with the female ass, he will be kicked by her. And so materialistic life is described in this verse in this way, that people who are like dogs, hogs, camels and asses, they will select men, they will worship people who are bigger dogs, hogs, camels and asses. These people will never listen to the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So this is materialistic society. Just like that. And certainly it's so true when we look at if we look at the society as it is, the world as it is, we can see how realistic, unfortunately, this analysis is. It's just like that. All right, please read, someone.
Hare Krishna. One who has not listened to the messages about the powers and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the Bhakti songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of the snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden if it is not bowed down before the personality of Godhead, who can award mukti, freedom. And the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles and like those of a dead man, is not engaged to the service of the personality of Godhead, Hari, 2021.
So I was telling Prabhupada lectured on this verse at Swavidvara Hostrakarai, that he lectured on it in the Lions Club. And, you know, he compared this society like this. And the people, you know, Prabhupada was describing the hog, the dog, the camel, and the people were listening, and they were laughing. And Prabhupada was so humorous, you know, and the men were laughing and laughing. And they were enjoying hearing Prabhupada speak, how he was describing the modern society, just to be hogs, dogs, camels and asses. So after his lecture, they congratulated him. They said, "Oh, Swamiji, you've spoken so very nicely. Thank you so much for coming and enlightening us and everything." And they were very happy with Prabhupada. So when Prabhupada was going away, he returned with all the devotees. They went back to the temple. Then Prabhupada told the devotees, he said, "You see, I called them all hogs, dogs, camels and asses, and they have applauded me." He said, "They have applauded me." He said, I called them, I explained to them that they're hogs, dogs, camels and asses. They have liked it. They've all clapped. They said, "Thank you, Swamiji." He said, "This is how you should preach. If you can preach like this, it'll be very good." So Prabhupada he captivated the audience with his wonderful speech and told them the message of Srimad Bhagavatam at the same time. And they liked it. You know, of course, the message was very deep. It maybe went over their head. They didn't realize he was talking about them, but actually he was. All right, so then Shonaka Rishi goes on to speak about other people who don't like to hear the topics of the Lord. And he talks about, he said, first of all, they've not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord. That's an important point, right? We should chant loudly. It's mentioned there. Chant loudly so that people can hear the glories of the Lord. And if they don't do that, then their ears are like the holes of a snake. The holes of a snake, just like the ears. If you don't fill them with the pure sound vibration, then the mundane sound vibration will enter. Something will enter the ears. If you don't fill the ears with the holy name and with the glories of Krishna, then the poison of materialistic life will enter. So the ears are described, and then the tongue is also described. If we don't use the tongue to chant, then it's like the tongue is like the tongue of a frog, right? When it starts raining, you can hear the frogs, glok, 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 right? And the frog is chanting, and the snake is coming. And the snake is coming, he's going to eat the frogs. That's the meal for the snake. So the chanting of the frog just simply brings the snake of death. So the ear and the tongue are described, and then the head is described. You have a heavy burden on the head, you wear a turban. Wearing a turban, it's very nice. People wear a silk turban. Usually when people get married at that time, they will like to put a turban on the man. In the past, in the old days, people would regularly wear turbans. And so turban is just a heavy burden if you don't bow before the Supreme Lord. If you're wearing a turban on your head, it will just simply be a burden to the head. And you'll drown in the ocean of material life. So the head with the turban is just a burden, and the hands, you have beautiful, valuable gold bangles on, but if these hands are not used for the service of the Lord, then they're just like the hands of a dead person. Sonaka Rishi says like that, just like the hands of a dead person. You're not using them for the service of the Lord. We'll read till the end of the chapter, right? That's text number 21. So then 22 describes eyes. The eyes which don't look at the Supreme Lord, they're like the eyes printed on the plumes of the peacock. If we don't look on the form of the Lord, we don't see the deities, and the eyes are just as useless as the eyes on the plumes of a peacock. And if the legs are not used to go to the holy places and to go to the temple, then these legs are just like tree trunks. Useless. Then text 23 continues. We heard about the different limbs of the body. Now we're hearing about the importance of getting the dust of the feet of the pure devotee and placing it on our head. If we don't get the dust from the feet of the pure devotees, then our body is also like a dead body. And then again the tongue is mentioned, because the tongue is also used for tasting. It's the nose for smelling, right? We should be able to experience the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord. And if we don't have that experience, then we're also a dead body, even though we're breathing. So you see the different senses are all described as useless if they're not engaged in bhakti. We have to get the dust, take it on our head. We have to smell the tulsi, the eyes, we have to see the form of the Lord, the legs move to the temple, the hands used for the service of the Lord, and the ears to hear about the glories of the Lord. And then text 24 is going to describe something very special. Because we've heard about the senses externally, now we're going to hear about the heart, the internal sense, right? So text 24 says, certainly that heart is still framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change even when one displays such signs of transformation as tears from the eyes and ecstatic standing of the hairs on end. Right? And we'll just finish the chapter. O Sutta Goswami, your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain this to us as it was spoken by the great devotee Sukadeva Goswami, who was very expert in transcendental knowledge and who spoke to Maharaj Parikshit upon being asked. So, Shonaka Rishi is putting his final inquiry here. He's saying, tell us what was spoken. Just tell us, explain to us as it was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami. So we heard some inquiries earlier. That's other inquiry. Okay, going back a bit, going back, text number 20. Someone read.
There are hundreds and thousands of sources of distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotees of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.2.
Okay, they have to speak loudly. So, here's an exercise for you. How can you enhance appreciation of Prabhupada's mood and mission in your temple or community? Right? Remember, Prabhupada said here, the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. The people of the world should be taught to hear. So that we have to speak loudly so that they can hear. So how are we going to do that? To enhance appreciation of Prabhupada's mood and mission in your temple or community. Any suggestions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
When Prabhupada said loudly, it means boldly and without compromising on the principles and through book distribution.
Well, look, we're talking about your temple or community.
How we have to do within our temple community, that's what you mean, Maharaj?
Yes.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, so we know for the world we can go out on Harinam and do book distribution, but what about within your temple and with the community who are part of the temple? Maybe you're living in a community, a group of devotees. So how are we going to do it to enhance appreciation?
Yeah. Now, currently, what we do is because of the kind of restrictions we have to openly preach. Now we do have a temple here, so we group in small groups like in house. We have many house programs which we call Bhakti Vriksha, and that's how we inculcate people to come. And we conduct these Damodara Aarti programs, and through children's class we try to bring the parents also. And Damodara Aarti is one of the super hit way of getting people here. And we had recent Kirtan Melas. In that way we try and preach and bring people, and we have in smaller groups, and only for large programs we gather together.
You do Damodar Aarti even now after Kartik's finished? You're still doing it?
No, just now we finished.
Okay,
Recently
so that's only 1 month you do Damodar Arati. You've still got 11 months.
Yes.
Yes? Someone else would like to take up? How are you going to do this in your temple or community? Enhance appreciation.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I think reading Srila Prabhupada's book more scrutinizingly and discussing the devotees, and in Prabhupada's, all the purport, Prabhupada has given his mood and mission very clearly. So discussing about them, making it very clear in different discussion with the devotees and classes, I think that is one of the important points. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yes, it's
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
important.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, sorry. Having regular programs, like Bhakti Uksha programs, throughout the year, reading Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, like how Mataji said, but we are doing it here regularly. And also, regularly indulging in Krishna consciousness activities, that is conducting festivals throughout the year. That's it.
Yeah, conducting festivals, yes, very important. We have a lot of Vaishnava festivals, right? So these festivals are very important to bring the community together and to strengthen the temple and enlivens everyone. Everyone gets enthusiastic when there's a festival. And Prabhupada said every day you can have a festival.
Also have regular and focused study groups also, Maharaj, wherein the devotees wake up early in the morning and regularly they read in groups. They read Srimad Bhagavatam and the books of Srila Prabhupada, Leelamrita, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, like that. They're all the devotees are engaged in regular study of the books of Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, very good. Every day, very nice. And you know, just because there's pandemic lockdown, this is a blessing for devotees. It's an opportunity for us to increase our sadhana and to strengthen our hearing and chanting, and to bring the devotees in the community and in the temple more together. Maybe we cannot do the classes actually together, but at least with the help of technology, we have things like, the Wi-Fi, so we can all be together like we are just now in different places, but we're all together. Somehow we're having this discussion and communication. So we take advantage of these things to increase our hearing and chanting. And the more there's the emphasis on hearing and chanting, we can see that devotees will become stronger. I remember when I joined the movement, we used to have several classes a day. There would be the class in the morning, and then we'd go out for Sankirtan after breakfast. We'd go out and Sankirtan. We'd come back at lunchtime, and then we'd have a Krishna book reading after lunch. And then in the evening, again, there'd be an evening program and be Nectar of Devotion. And so many classes were going on throughout the day. And so we didn't know anything, we didn't know very much. We were all very new devotees, but we enjoyed just being together and reading Prabhupada's book. We'd read the Krishna book and hear the pastimes of Krishna. It was very nice. Of course, in those days we were all living together in the ashram. Nowadays it's, we're more in congregation, but there's still the opportunity for hearing and chanting, making use of the technology. Certainly Prabhupada wanted it, and Prabhupada would encourage it. So, yes, we want to improve hearing and chanting. Vaishnava festivals also very, very important. Even you cannot bring everybody to the temple, but still you can celebrate the festival. Maybe you have to do it online. And maybe they just come and collect a box from the temple. Some temples did it like that. They just come and collect a box from the temple. Temple would prepare a box of prasadam, and they'd come and take their box and go home. They wouldn't eat in the temple. If there's a lockdown, of course, not so much, not everywhere is a lockdown. Some temples are quite liberal and everything going on. Okay, any other things?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
In our congregation, Shamadesh, we all work in cooperation. We do not see who are the disciples of who. We all come together and our Siksha Gurus analyze our skills. Some may be good in Kirtan, some may be good in preaching, some of them may be good in cooking. So accordingly, they will try to improve us in whatever skills we have. We use it in the service of Krishna. So if they have good speaking skills, they are trained as a good preachers, or they may be trained for book distribution if they are good in marketing. So in that way, they all sit together, the Siksha Gurus guide us on what we have to do, and we thus improve our own selves in service of Krishna. So this is our one point.
Okay. Of course, sometimes people are good at things, but they don't really like to do it, you know. Just like somebody may be a good cook, but they get a bit tired of cooking and they want to do something else. So sometimes it's nice to be able to learn new things too. You know, you may not be very good at it, but if you have a good teacher, they can help you to improve. And like book distribution, Prabhupada wanted everyone to learn the art of book distribution. He thought this is our family business. Book distribution is the family business, just like you have a family business, so everyone helps. So you should learn how to do it. Let everyone have the opportunity to take part in the activity. So we don't want people to feel tied up that, oh, you can only do this. No, you only do kirtan. No, you only cook. No. No, it's nice to let people also learn other things too, to use their skills for Krishna. Okay.
Yes, Maharaj, they help us to improve in what we lack. That I forgot to add. They help us to improve in what we lack, and they use what we have.
Okay. Where is this? Which temple?
My Siksha Guru is Satya Shodha Mataji. She is here in this class.
No, but which dash was it?
Shamadesh, Sharjah.
Oh, Shamadesh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, very good. Very nice. Okay, any other things about this? Okay. Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
We call our devotees to our home for prasadam. That will increases our love and affection among the devotees. It is one of the most important points required to grow as a community and also to improve the proper preaching.
Okay, very nice, yes. Taking care, that's devotee care, bringing people to your home, having personal association with them. And sometimes, we get a bit impersonal, we don't notice people, we don't care for them, so it's really nice that some people do that you bring people to your home and you can talk to them and get to know them better. Very good. Certainly it will strengthen the temple and the community. So caring and appreciating for each other. Also sometimes giving gifts. Prabhupada, when he would come back from his tour, he would like to give gifts to devotees. He'd bring a sari, or he'd give a bead bag or something, and if you get something from Prabhupada, then certainly you would treasure it. So we do like to do things like that, to care for the devotees. Okay, we'll go ahead. Okay, here's a point. Someone like to read this one?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Devotees are more merciful than Krishna. The conclusion is, therefore, that one should be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. And by once doing so, by the goodwill of the devotee, the natural attraction for the service of the Lord will be revived. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.23.
All right. So it's an important point to be noted here, that we should be more serious about getting the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. How could we explain this? That the mercy of the devotee is more important to us than the mercy of Krishna?
devotees are the representative of Krishna. So the mercy flows through the devotees. Like Krishna is Karuna Sindhu, Vaishnavas are Kripa Sindhu. So they have the same quality, and they transmit or they pass on that mercy of the Lord. That is the compassion of the devotee.
Okay. Yes.
Krishna Maharaj. And it is also mentioned that Krishna likes them who become the devotee of his devotee and who tries to become his direct devotee. For them, his affection can be considered as lesser than the devotee of his devotee. So that's the one principle.
Yes, right, yes.
Krishna Maharaj,
yes.
One example from Chaitanya Charitamrita where King Prataprudra wanted to personally associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict that he would not meet kings or persons who are too much having material engagements. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept avoiding, but the devotees were trying to make all the arrangements for the king to meet him, and finally when the king served the devotees, king was very inclined to serving the devotees, and he made special arrangement for Ravananda Rai to be in association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this, then finally he gave his own association also to King Pratap.
Okay. Yeah, actually, yes, Maraji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. The devotees carry the Lord within their heart. So wherever they travel, when they speak, when they act, and when we hear, they are able to transform the same Lord within our heart too. They have that potency. So for that, we have to serve the devotees and hear from them attentively. Because they are the representatives who can give Krishna Bhakti to everybody. They are the only way of us reaching Krishna. So,
okay.
Devotees are more.
I'll just read from Prabhupada's purport here. This is text number 23. He said, there's a common saying that one should first love the dog of the beloved before one shows any loving sentiment for the beloved. Prabhupada, some quoted, there's a saying, love me, love my dog. You know, so you want to love the person, you have to love the person's dog also. So then Prabhupada continues, the stage of pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving a pure devotee of the Lord. The first condition of devotional service to the Lord is therefore to be a servant of a pure devotee. And this condition is fulfilled by the statement, reception of the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who has also served another pure devotee. So then we say don't go to Krishna directly, but go to Krishna through the devotee. And so we have to first take shelter of the devotee, and then from the mercy of the devotee, then you can come to the parampara. Right? Prabhupada said, this is the way of the disciplic succession, the sampradaya. And then Prabhupada was asked, well, he quotes Maharaj Rahugana and Jadbharat, and how Jadbharat was questioned by Maharaj Rahugana, where did you get this devotion from? And Jadbharat says, the only way you get this devotion is by taking the dust from the feet of the devotee and smearing it all over your body. So the mercy of Krishna, to go direct to Krishna, that's very difficult. In Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada explains that Krishna will not give his mercy very easily. Why?
Because he'll come under their control.
Yes, right. Yes, Krishna will come under the control of the pure devotee. If Krishna gives his mercy, he becomes controlled by his pure devotees. Krishna's Ajita, he's unconquered, but he's conquerable. He's conquered by the pure love of his devotees. His devotees control him. And so Krishna doesn't very readily give his full mercy. He was controlled by Arjuna. He became the chariot driver for Arjuna. And he delivered a message for Maharaj Yudhisthira. He became a messenger on behalf of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Krishna is always obliged to his pure devotees. So he does not easily give his mercy. But the pure devotees of Krishna, they're more merciful than Krishna. They give the mercy of Krishna because they understand the purpose of the Lord. So the pure devotees, they have to be approached. You have to get the mercy of the devotee. You cannot go to Krishna directly. Prabhupada continues, Lord Krishna is the property of his pure, unconditional devotees, and as such, only the devotees can deliver Krishna to another devotee. Krishna is never obtainable directly. Lord Chaitanya therefore designated himself as Gopi Bharta Parakamala or Das Anuda, the most obedient servant of the servants of the Lord who maintains the damsels of Braja. So a pure devotee never approaches the Lord directly, but tries to please the servant of the Lord's servant. And thus the Lord becomes pleased. And only then can the devotee relish the taste of the tulsi leaves stuck to his lotus feet. Okay. There's a very important point there coming up in that text number 23, that you have to get the mercy of the devotee. And then Prabhupada continues, he said, in Vrindavan, all the pure devotees pray for the mercy of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani is the tender-hearted feminine counterpart of the Supreme Whole, resembling the perfectional stage of the worldly feminine nature. Therefore, the mercy of Radharani is available very readily to the sincere devotee. And once she recommends a devotee to Lord Krishna, the Lord at once accepts the devotee's admittance into his association. The conclusion is, therefore, that one should be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. And by one's doing so, by the goodwill of the devotee, the natural affection for the service of the Lord will be revived. Hare Krishna. All right, now this very important verse, text number 24. Certainly that heart is still framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. So we may think that when we hear that, oh, ecstasy is taking place, tears fill the eyes, the hairs are standing on end, is that perfection? Not necessarily. Just because tears are in the eyes and the hairs are standing on end and ecstasy is there, it doesn't mean you're chanting the pure name. We have to see how much the heart has changed. So the important point here is the heart. If the heart is still framed, then you may chant, but even though you're chanting with ecstasy, there's no change in the heart, that it's not good. You understand? You're chanting the name with concentration, but there's no change in the heart, something is wrong. So, Prabhupada writes, oh, well, here, you can discuss here. Well, let's read Prabhupada's quote first. Let me go back. The change in the heart. The mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. Right? So, we want you to discuss in pairs. How many do we have today? Is it 24 again?
22, Maharaj.
Oh, 22, we're short today. Okay, too short. So that's one group short. So we have 11 pairs, right? So you can discuss, have a partner and discuss to what extent have we experienced a change of heart as a result of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll just give you 3 minutes. Okay? Everybody got a partner? No?
No, Maharaj, I don't think I have got.
So you can discuss with me, I'm here. And so have you experienced a change in heart, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Maharaj, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yes?
Maharaj, the first thing what I have experienced is, after regularly attending Srimad Bhagavatam, first of all, we cannot miss Srimad Bhagavatam. That is one thing I have, one class also if you miss, I feel that I am missing something, that particular week it will not go okay or something. Always the entire week I'll be feeling as missing. And second thing, after regularly attending this, studying, especially studying regularly Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm in the 10th canto now, but that is from the beginning. I was reading from last 4-5 years. But after reading that, I get this one of who I am, what I am, and what I am supposed to do. And if I really, if I want to do something which is not okay according to this, immediately that hit us, we will not do anything wrong. Even if we want to do something wrong, that will come to our mind, and consciously we will avoid all those things which are which are inauspicious or which is not good for cultivation of Krishna consciousness. This is one thing.
Very good. Yeah.
Also, this when we are reading Bhagavatam, that one thing which constantly Bhagavatam says is how to surrender to the devotees. That is that is the most important thing. That is what we always consciously we have to serve the devotees, and then we should not do aparadha to the devotees. This is what automatically comes to us when we are we seriously read Bhagavatam, study Bhagavatam. That is association of devotees. Always we would like to be in association of devotees. That's what even Bhagavatam also emphasizes in almost all the chapters.
No. So do you get a good opportunity to serve the devotees? How do you serve them?
Yeah, because how means, Maharaj, we have regularly classes here in Shamadesh. Like yesterday also we had programs. So when we are going to the programs, what I do is I listen to our Shiksha Guru, whatever instructions he gives. I do that one. That way it is indirectly serving the Shiksha Guru. So following the instructions, Maharaj.
Okay. Very nice. So you really feel the change in heart?
Yes, Maharaj. That is automatically it has come. It's not that we are trying to do something externally. Automatically it happens.
These are external symptoms. Internally, Are you feeling yourself to be more tolerant and more peaceful and sense control?
Yeah, especially peaceful, as you said, Maharaj. Tolerance, I think still I have to do so many things, because still I get angry, especially in the office and other things. Even though sometimes after that, but one thing is there, Maharaj, after getting angry also, but immediately I'll come to know that, so what I have done is wrong. I repent actually. But the tolerance, yes, still I have to control. But peacefulness, yes, Maharaj, it is really, I felt that I get the peacefulness.
Yes. Yeah, tolerance or forbearance. Forbearance is one of the important qualities which we want to develop more and more. You know, that we don't get easily disturbed, you know. We shouldn't be overly affected, overly disturbed by the material circumstances. Of course, Prabhupada would also he would simply say, do something about it.
Recording in progress.
Mangalore.
Okay, everyone's back? All right, Manaji, you'd like to tell us? You're on the screen. Maybe you can tell us what you discussed. What's Manaji's name? I'm not sure. Subhangi Manaji. Subhangi Manaji, you're on the screen. You're on my screen. Please tell me what you discussed.
My partner was Her Grace Gopipriya Mataji. We were discussing how before reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we did not know how much of time we have wasted. Apyartha Kalatvam. We have wasted our time in gossiping. We have wasted our time in envious, hatred, all those qualities. Now after reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand the importance of time. And we wanted to really relish Srimad Bhagavatam, which is given by Srila Prabhupada with so much of nectar in it. He doesn't allow us to deviate anywhere. The purpose are always focused on Krishna, his devotees, and how we should take our life. So whenever we have any issues, whenever we have any problems, we always refer to Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the solution that Srila Prabhupada gave? What is that the devotees did when at that time? Of course, we are not, I personally am not implementing it completely, but I wish to do it in future, Maharaj.
Oh, very good.
So this is what we were.
So you're very time conscious now.
Yes, Maharaj, to some extent, yes.
Very good. Very nice. That's the quality of Bhava. Right? You're up there. All right, Prabhus. Some of the Prabhus like to tell me something? Who would like
Krishna
to?
Maharaj?
Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Myself and Muralivardhan Prabhu has discussed in the group that, after taking up Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Vaibhava, itself, taking up Bhakti Vaibhava, it itself, interested in coming to Bhakti. And after taking up our interest in some mundane activity like reading newspaper or watching some time, that has been completely reduced, and we are trying to give completely on the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhakti Vaibhava course. So, and also we are feeling that, okay, the chanting is most important. Hearing and chanting the holy name of the Lord is most important. So this is what we are experiencing, and we would like to give our time for this. Hare Krishna.
Okay, good. Yes? Anybody else? Let me hear one more.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaji?
Maharaj, my experience is, in fact, to read Srimad Bhagavatam in association of devotees gives, it's very enlivening and enriches your understanding, and it is very relishable, and we just don't want to miss the classes. So it is very nice, extremely nice, Prabhuji. It's not the question of feeling nice, you feel more connected. Now we understand our purpose, and we feel, of course, like just now Shubhangi Mataji was saying, our concepts is clear and we want to implement it, though it has to happen still more at a more faster pace, but we feel that we are in that path. We can feel from ourselves what we were earlier and what we are into, and we just want to be Srimad Bhagavatam. And we understand who that Father is, how compassionate he is. We are able to understand the wonderful qualities of Krishna, and our yearning to go back to him is becoming stronger by the day. Maybe it may take lifetimes, but we are sure of the process.
What about if somebody says, well, you know, I don't go to class because, you know, he's giving class, I know everything he said, you know, I'm already a Bhakti Vaibhava graduate, so I already know this, I studied all this, I don't like to hear, I don't want to sit and hear it all again.
Maharaj, we are actually not giving the class, we all discuss, everyone reads and comes, and because each one has a different way of looking, so we all collectively discuss. It's not that, of course, there are in some classes we do give a class because others are not new, but most of the times it's a kind of a discussion that happens, and that is very relishable because each one has the realization.
Yeah, very nice. That's good. You know, someone may feel they've heard the class before. Okay, then come and ask questions. You know, at least hear what the person says, and then you can put some questions so that he can speak more. And the idea of discussing is very good. Yeah, sometimes devotees, they just read and then they don't discuss. But the whole point is after you read, then you have to discuss. Prabhupada said, reading books is good, but more important than reading is discussing together and explaining what you've read. In your own words, you know, explaining what you've understood and discussing it with others. That's more important than just reading together. Some people may read, they learn nothing. They don't understand anything. So it's very important that we also discuss what we read and try to explain what we've read to others also.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me see, where are we? Okay. The change in heart. Of course, change in heart is really, we want to go on and develop our bhava, right? Come to the bhava stage. Okay, so what did we discuss today? We explained the connection between the second and the third chapter. Connection being that Sukadeva Goswami he's answered Maharaj Parikshit's question about what one should do at the time of death, but question came up, what if one still has material desires? You still have some material desires. So then he explained about worshipping different demigods and ultimately should worship the Supreme Lord. So that introduced the topic, the worship of the Supreme Lord. The overview of the third chapter. So after explaining about the demigods and then the importance of worshipping the Supreme Lord, then we hear Shonaka Rishi and his attack on the materialists who never take part in devotional service and who don't care to hear the glories of the Lord. And he also glorifies the process of hearing and chanting. We talked about the difference between Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha, right? Would somebody like to tell us the difference?
Nityasiddhas do not forget the Lord. They are devotees right from the birth, and there is no way they'll forget. And sadhana siddhas are the ones who come to that perfection by the mercy and association of devotees. And actually they are, because they'd forgotten their eternal position, but they get revived to that position.
Yes, thank you. Very nice. Very good. Okay, and then preaching application. Udaradi, the broader outlook. All should worship Krishna in relation to demigod worship and materialism in general. Right? So, certainly the worship of the demigods is condemned. Krishna doesn't encourage it at all in the Bhagavad Gita. But people who have broader intelligence or broader outlook, they will worship the Lord, even though they still have material desires. People may say, well, I'm not qualified, I still have material desire. But here, the Bhagavatam is very clear. No, you must worship the Supreme Lord. You should worship the Supreme Lord, even you have material desires. And by worshipping the Supreme Lord, what will happen to our material desires?
They get purified.
Yes, Yeah, they get purified. We actually lose the material. In the beginning, we come just like Dhruva Maharaj had so many material desires. But when he actually had perfected his sadhana and the Lord came to him, and then he said, now I am fully satisfied. Now I don't want anything. And so that's the effect of worshipping Krishna, that it purifies us from all the material desires. And then how the sun fails to rob the pure devotees of the duration of life. How could we explain this? The sun fails to rob the pure devotees. Why?
Because
rising and sunset flows. Rise and sunset.
Yes, one of you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Actually, as in the shloka, it has been discussed that when somebody is completely imbibed in the process of Krishna consciousness, Krishna being eternal and all his paraphernalia being eternal, it is an eternal activity, and sun, which is destroying our temporary body, cannot touch that activity. So our activity becomes eternal, and thereby our final goal becomes eternal. So we become beyond the purview of the sun.
Okay. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, we transcend the material nature. The sun is rising and setting, reducing the duration of life of the materialists. It's material, the sun rising and setting. Yes, it's material. But for the devotee is not under the laws of karma. The one who is engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, he's transcended the material nature. He's not influenced by the material energy. All right? And then Shastra Chakshus, the analogies in this section, Sonaka's analysis of one who neglects devotional practices. Text 17 to 28, right? What were some of the analogies given?
The hogs and the dogs and the camels and the asses.
Yes. Who are these hogs, dogs, camels, and asses?
The dogs are the ones who are like doggish mentality. They're just knocking for their bread and butter. They want to serve somebody who is superior, not understanding that Krishna is a superior, supreme-most, and he's the one who is providing. That is the doggish mentality. Hogs without any discrimination. They're just only behind sense gratification. So that's what it represents. And the hog and camels, they don't even understand that they're suffering. They are showing the thorn and they are releasing the blood, thinking that it is tasty, but not understanding they're suffering in this material world. And the asses are the ones who don't even know the kind of load they are carrying, and they go on and without understanding the real purpose of life.
And how do they spend their time? Who do they elect for their leaders?
The ones who are not... it's the same. They are electing the dogs itself amongst them, and they think that they are something supreme, and we have to serve them.
Yeah,
they have the same mentality.
Yeah, they will elect the biggest dog or the biggest pig, the fastest pig, or the right. They'll elect them for their leader, and they'll praise them. Okay, so that's the animalistic society. That was one analogy. Can we hear some others?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
Yeah, please continue, Mataji.
Yeah, you can each give one analogy.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. In 18th verse, it is said that materialistic men live like trees. They are not for any purpose. They do not serve any purpose. If one says the trees do not breathe, then Shukadeva Goswami gives the analogy of the bellows of the blacksmith that breathes, but is there any purpose? Breathing is not a symptom of life. And if one says the trees do not eat, but we eat, in in that case, even beasts, they eat and discharge semen and create progeny much more higher and faster than us. So what is the use of living for a longer time if you are not serving Lord Krishna, if you are not chanting and hearing the glories of Lord Krishna? This is the analogy, Maharaj.
Okay, very good. Yes. Yes, next one.
And also he talks about the different limbs of the body if it is not used.
Yes.
Like he says, like the ear holes, the ears, it's simply like the snakes.
Yes.
Then he talks about the tongue, like the frog.
Yes.
Then only it is croaking and inviting death.
Mm-hmm.
He tells that part, and then
the eyes.
I think it's like the plumes of the peacock.
Yes, right, good. And
Yes,
the head.
It's just like a turban, a silken turban, which doesn't have any, unless it goes, the head is going to the Lord, then there is no purpose of that. No, it doesn't have any value.
Right.
Then he says the heart is steel framed. If it does not, there is no change of heart. It's like steel frame.
Okay. All right, very good. So then we discussed also Srimad Bhagavatam's description of society in terms of the hogs, dogs, camels and asses. Yeah, we just heard that. And then also the statement, be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. And so we talked about that quite a bit. The very important point that we need to get the mercy of the devotees to get the mercy of Krishna. To go to Krishna without an introduction is not very good. Krishna will say, who sent you here? Who's recommending you? Yeah, there has to be the mercy of the devotees. So it's very important we approach Krishna's devotees. And then we've discussed also the change of heart can actually happen in our lives. The change of heart can happen in our lives. The change of heart. How? Just simply by our intense desire to achieve it. We have to desire to want to go back to Krishna, to be with Krishna, to focus our mind more on Krishna. And the more we desire that loving relationship with Krishna, the more we'll get that change of heart. And we will feel the genuine longing to be with Krishna. And then, mood and mission, the statement about people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord and the devotee of the Lord. And they must speak loudly so that they can hear. So we talked about how we could do it loudly, how we could loudly propagate this message of Krishna even among our own devotees in our congregation. Okay, very good. So, thank you very much. Any questions before we close? Anyone?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu?
Maharaj, just had this one thought in the mind that Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that it talks about pure devotion service, and in the first itself it says that all other cheating religion have been removed. And here also in this particular chapter, it concludes that whether you have desire or not desire, you should worship the Supreme Lord. Then why at all this particular verses where those who have different desires should worship different demigods, why this section is there or it is mentioned?
Well, just to show that is there, that people may have material desires, but these people ultimately they're condemned. You know, just like Sukadeva Goswami, he presents many things in the course of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We heard about the worship on the universal form, and we heard about the Astanga Yoga, and you know, these different, approaching all these different things. Panchapasami almost like that was almost recommended. The Astanga Yogis, how they go back to Godhead, the Jnanis, how they go. It's mentioned there. It doesn't mean that Sukadeva Goswami is recommending it, but we look at what comes after this recommendation. Then he said, the one who is actually broader intelligence, he will worship the Supreme Lord. In other words, he's saying the less intelligent people will worship these demigods. And so Sukadeva Goswami knows there are people worshipping these kind of demigods. All this worship is going on. So Sukadeva Goswami wants to just expose it and say, ultimately, these people are all foolish, less intelligent. They do it, and look at the things, so many things, so many material things he mentioned. So people may be thinking, oh, this is very nice. Oh yeah, I want that. Oh, I want this, and I want to be, I want long life. I want wealth. I want the beautiful wife. I want a happy family. I want all these things. But this is not intelligent. What is intelligent? You worship the Supreme Lord. Even you want all these things. Okay, worship the Supreme Lord, and you'll get the purification. So it's mentioned there, just to open it up, to expose it, that this goes on. People do these things.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Yes, just a thought when we were talking about Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddhas. So can we say just for a moment, Sukadeva Goswami also forgotten about the Lord, and then he realized for a moment when he was born? So can we say that momentarily or just temporarily he just...
Well, we say he was fixed on the platform of Brahman. Like, that's why he remained within the womb for so many years, 16 years before taking birth, that he was fixed on the platform of impersonal Brahman. And I think it says somewhere that Lord Krishna personally comes and tells him, look, you can come out, you don't have to be afraid, that you won't fall down, you're not going to be influenced by the material energy. You don't have to remain there, you can come out of the womb. So
so someone who is at an impersonalist level also, Maharaj, we can treat them as a Nitya Siddhas, because they're still concentrating on some portion of the Lord.
Yeah, they may be Nitya Siddha, well, Nitya Siddha, remember, Nitya Siddhas are very special, means from birth, that they're actually attracted like this and absorbed in the transcendental topics of the Lord. To be a Nitya Siddha, they have to be very great personalities. Usually the impersonalists, their goal is to go into the Brahman, right?
Yes, yes.
So are they going to take, if from their childhood they're drawn to the impersonalist path, sit and meditate,
Yeah, so when he was born, he was meditating on the Omkara, and then he was made realized, and that's how. So that's what my thought was.
So we don't think of Sukadeva Goswami ever really forgetting the Lord, but he was fixed on the transcendental platform. And from actually, it's more as an example, he was used as an example by the Lord to show the power of hearing topics of Krishna. That even though he is actually on that platform, playing the part of the impersonalist, that he heard the topics of Krishna and became a devotee. So it's to give the example of how, by hearing topics of Krishna, even the mind of the impersonalist can be changed and can be brought into devotional service. Not particularly that Sukadeva Goswami was really the impersonalist, or in his last life he was impersonalist, but he's taking that position of the impersonalist for the pastime, for the purpose of showing all of us the power of hearing topics of Krishna.
Understood, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we'll meet next week. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Go back to Vrinda ki. Oh,
Bhakti Bringa Govinda Swami Maharaj ki jai.
No, not Govinda.